of Oklahoma City. I was with her the day that her daughter received or became a judge. I was there when she was sworn in. I looked at Geraldine and I said, Geraldine, we've come a long ways. Yes, today at 11 o'clock at the Tabernacle Baptist Church, a city, a state, will say goodbye to Geraldine Dukes, known as Geraldine Lonian. And many of you will remember her through her husband, who is still an educator, Mr. Anderson J. Lonian. You have sent flowers to the family. You have taken food and you have sent cards. But those of you that really want to do something that will live on, I would like for you to make your contributions in place of flowers to the Medical Research Center here in Oklahoma. The address is 825 Northeast 13th Street. The zip is 73104. Mr. Lonian has asked me to remind you that whatever you give to the Medical Research Center, the family will appreciate it, and it's tax deductible. How do you say goodbye to a young man? Do you celebrate? How do you do it? On Wednesday at 1 p.m., I joined a unique crowd in saying goodbye to Iran Bachman, a young man who was in the hearts of people. In Oklahoma City, he left a record that's unbelievable. Attended Cassidy High School, where he was a wide receiver and quarterback for the Cassidy Cyclones football team, a forward for the basketball team, and a member of the track team, a member of the Cassidy Choir, Drama, and French clubs. Graduating in 1989 at the top of his class, cum laude. Iran Balcom, a junior at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. And God called Iran home. It was an experience that you would never have. You could not imagine the experience that we all experienced at Temple's funeral home. You cannot even imagine the love, the warmth, men and women of all races, creeds, and colors. If you could have seen Iran's football team, these young men walked in. If you could have seen the class of 1989, you could understand the feelings. But then you would have to look at the honorary pallbearers, those young men that came from Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island. Or maybe you would have been affected by the flower bearers and the people from Quail United Methodist Church. And I've invited Reverend Scott to share some words that he said there at that service, because it was such an inspiration to all of us. And that tribute that was paid by Ora Moulton was something that we could never forget. And the melodious voice of a Leonardo Debo singing Danny Boy, or Jesse Wesley singing Ordinary People. We thank God for the life of a young man who was fortunate enough to live in a society where love could be demonstrated. And that was demonstrated in the words of a witness, Reverend John H. Moreland. Say that here was a young man that loved and had a chance to love people and to demonstrate that love. Today's program is going to be dedicated to that pioneer, Dr. A.L. Dow. Dr. Dow, this is your program. And as I listen to the music, if I can help somebody, if I can just help one person, then my living will not be in vain. If I can help someone, then my living will not be in vain. Dr. A.L. Dow. And I want to send this song out. If I could just help someone, then my living will not be in vain. And Dr. Dow, you've done that. And this is the way that Clara Luper has of saying to you, thank you, Dr. Dow. Thank you for what you have done. And on behalf of our advertisers, we just want to say thank you. If I can help someone, then my living shall not be in vain. Or it gets dark, but the words are clear. Listen. Listen at the words.
If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I could show somebody that he's traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Oh Lord, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with just a word or song, if I could show somebody that he's traveling wrong, then my living shall not be, won't be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. My living shall not be in vain. If I could help, you see I gotta help somebody as I travel along, then my living shall not be in vain. Oh Lord, it shall not be. Shall not be in vain. My living shall not be. I don't want it to be in vain. Oh Lord.
It was in the year of our Lord 1961 that an optometrist, Dr. A.L. Dow, stood at Northeast High School as his son was denied admission to that school. Dr. A.L. Dow and the NACP took this case to court. 2 years later, United States District Court Judge Luther Bohannon ruled that the school district intentionally segregated students by race in violation of the United States Constitution. In 1972, he ordered the district to adopt a plan that included busing students to desegregated schools. But in 1977, Bohannon terminated the court oversight, saying that the school district was no longer a dual black-white system, but was now unitary. The district continued to follow the busing plan until 1985, when the Oklahoma City School Board voted to return to neighborhood schools from grades 1 through 4, a plan that has resulted into a segregated school system. Yes, Dr. Dow, you have helped someone, and I can certainly testify because you opened the door of opportunity so that someone as black as Clara Luper could teach not only at Dungy, not only at Douglas, not only at Northeast, not only at Northwest Classen, but at John Marshall High School. And today, as educators turn their backs on the NACP, I want you to know how much we love you, how much we appreciate you, and how much we realize what you have done for all of us. And to the black principals, there were no black principals in integrated schools until Dr. Dow made it possible. It was not a board of education. The history of the Board of Education in Oklahoma City has not been one in favor of black people. It was Emma Freeman, who had to stand in front of Judge Vaught and ask that she would receive the same salary as the white teachers. Yes, the cooks, the janitors, the assistant principals, and the counselors should not forget Dr. A.L. Dow. But now we're beginning to face a crisis in education in Oklahoma City. And the lines are clearly drawn. And I've been receiving calls saying that, Clara, what do you think? And one thing I'm happy to announce to you today, we did not lose that case in court because of white Oklahoma City. But if you have read, you would have to read the testimony of blacks, educated blacks, who went down to Judge Bohannon's court and testified against the busing plan. Black educators. I call them black Judases. Stood up, and many of them didn't have child the first in the Oklahoma City school system. Yes, in Oklahoma City, we now have segregated schools. And what is a school system anyway? It's a body. And then if you take a body and separate that body from the heartbeat of America, you have segregated schools. Now, in the ruling, and I want you to listen very carefully because today I'll give you an opportunity to express your opinion. Because all over this nation, we are being laughed at today because black people are standing up saying, I don't want my children bused. Who ever heard of such? Who ever heard of people not wanting their children to live in the real world? It's no such world as a black world. It's an integrated world. Now, Calvin is here, and I know Calvin's going to disagree with me. Calvin, let's read the headlines of the Daily Oklahoman, Friday, November the 8th. Read that for me and see what it says.
Friday, November the 8th, city schools ruled not segregated. And it goes on where the U.S. District Court Judge Bohannon, and they explain that this is the third time that he's terminated the 1972 desegregation order. And I'm just interested, like everyone else is, you know, what your opinion is about the Bohannon opinion.
Okay, I want you to read that headline again.
City schools, and they're talking about the Oklahoma City schools. City schools ruled not segregated, and that's November the 8th, 1991. So, Mom, what is your opinion of?
Well, in the first place, anybody, and I might be wrong, that's why I'm going to call upon the people in this community to join me at Freedom Center Monday at 10 a.m., and we want to go on a search. I want to find those non-segregated schools on the east side of Oklahoma City. Now, let me give you the address, and I want you to write this down. 2609 North Martin Luther King Avenue. I want you to come to Freedom Center. Because what I want to do, I want you to join us in looking for non-segregated schools on the east side of Oklahoma City. Let's take a tour. And I don't mean any harm, But I can tell you one thing. I believe, and this is Clara Luper, not KTLV, that the schools are segregated. And once again, Dr. Stella and I go into a terminology fight. Now, the schools are not segregated. Then I would like to ask the Honorable Dr. Stella and his cohorts, what is a segregated school? Now, I'm from Hoffman, Oklahoma, graduating in the top 5 of my class at Grayson, Oklahoma. There were only 5. But we learned that a segregated situation would mean the absence of a certain group of people. Now, if the schools are not integrated, then they would have to be segregated. If the schools are not integrated, they have to be segregated. Now, let's just pick up some schools. Let's take a school named Martin Luther King, named after an American that gave his life for blacks and whites, that told the world his dream, and his dream was not of a group of black people attending a black school, but he dreamed that little black children and little white children would sit down together at the table of brotherhood. And then we're talking about neighborhood schools. Let's look and see what neighborhood schools have given us. I had the opportunity with Mrs. Matthews, and I do hope that she would call me, to go to Martin Luther King. And yesterday I said on Channel 4 that I've never been so insulted by a principal as I was that principal, because he walked over us like we didn't even exist. And any time the principal of a school is too busy to take time out and speak to his constituents, he's in the wrong place. Now, I went to Martin Luther King School. I smelled the paint, and I know this is not what young children should be smelling. I saw the trash up and down the halls. I saw those rotten doors that they were talking about. I'm talking about neighborhood schools. And everybody, I'm talking about neighborhood schools. And one school in particular, Martin Luther King. I want you to listen to me today, because I want to say thank you to Dr. Dow for calling our attention to the fact that segregation is wrong in any form. It's wrong because it's been proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that when you are in an all-black situation, you don't get the same thing that you get in other situations. Calvin, did you know they had rotten doors, and they are just now fixing the rotten doors at Martin Luther King School? Did you know that? Rotten doors, rotten ceilings, and they knew school was going to start. Why did they wait to paint it? I can tell you, because it's a neighborhood school.
Mom, I'm trying to find something good about the Judge Bohannon ruling, and I'm trying to see the good in what Dr. Stella's doing, and I've read the paper, and it says where Dr. Stella feels like that this shows that the school board and the school system has been doing the right thing all along. But then this decision only affects grades 1 through, what, kindergarten through 4th grade?
Right.
Okay, now Martin Luther King, isn't that a 5th-year center? Is that
No, that's from the...
That's the little baby school.
Yes.
Okay. So now that the schools are back to the way they were prior to the original Bohannon ruling.
No, prior to, before the 1954 decision, when the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that segregation has no place in education in America, and that separate schools are inherently unequal.
So that means that the young people that are in attendance at the schools K through 4, no matter where these schools are, will only go to the schools within their neighborhood.
That's what it means.
Okay, what about...
As I see it.
Do you think that this will expand to the junior high and to the high school level?
But common sense will tell you that if you can
I'm a
say...
little short on common sense. I'm reading the Daily, and I'm asking Clara
if it's
Luper
good for the kindergarten through the 4th grade, it must be good from the 5th grade on up. So then how can you take your body? A school system is nothing but a body. And you take your body, and part of it you leave in one condition, and the other part, and then expect the body to get well. That's ridiculous.
So what you're saying is, what we can look forward to is that the entire school system changing back to the way it was prior to 1954.
Of course it's going to go back if it were not for the NACP and the people that could see through the neighborhood idea. Let me tell you what a neighborhood school is. A neighborhood school is nothing. It's just like a skunk. You can take a skunk, you can dress that skunk up and call that skunk anything. Call it a rose. It's still a skunk. And if you dress segregated schools up and say, we now have neighborhood schools, but pull off the coat. What do you have? You have a segregated school system where people just aren't concerned. Another thing that the board has proven beyond the show.
Wouldn't people be more concerned about the neighborhood schools, though?
What people? What people? Now they say, let me tell you how they get PTA. They have open house and they have people to register. People are no more concerned with the neighborhood schools than they were the other schools and all this bullcorn about, well, they are close together and we can stay in contact. They don't want to stay in contact with the parents. They don't want the parents to know what's going on in the school. The superintendent, Stella, and let me tell you what we really have, Kevin. I got it all figured out.
Okay, if you got it figured out, I'm certainly listening like everybody out there.
I'm a history teacher. In 1820, we had what was known as the Missouri Compromise, where this nation was divided by a line known as the Mason and Dixie line. On one side was free territory, and on the other side was slave territory. Well, we have in Oklahoma City the Mason, Stella, and Bohannon line, where the schools are divided. These are schools, and they got a big old phoenix sign. They're going to rise from the dust. In other words, that's an insult to anybody's historical intelligence to believe in 1991 that you're going to rise from the dust. And to keep you rising, we're going to bring in teachers from all over this country. We're going to pay teachers more than others, showing that these students over here are inferior to all other students. Because if you're going to pay one teacher to help the students in the Phoenix school, you should pay the other teachers to help the students in the other schools. That's a joke. And then it's easy to fall for it unless you listen very careful about what was happening. They told us that by going to these neighborhood schools, we would improve businesses on the northeast side of Oklahoma City. On our tour, I want you to show the business. And the people that were talking about it wouldn't even stop to buy a hamburger or a gallon of gas on the east side of Oklahoma City.
Now, when is this tour going to be?
This tour is going to be Monday at 10 o'clock. We want to meet up to Freedom Center, and we want to take a tour. Dr. Stella and Judge Bohannon say that the schools are not segregated. Then I want you to come and go with me. I want you to come and go with Gloria Mathis. I want you to come and go with Roosevelt Milton, the president of the NACP, and others, and let's go and see for ourselves. You cannot believe everything white people tell you. Now, you got to watch that. Nor can you believe everything that black people tell you. Now, I'm not going to say anything about Luther Bohannon today, because I know that in 1857, Dred Scott stood in front of an old man, Judge Taney, in the Supreme Court. And Judge Taney said to Dred, you're not a citizen. You have no business here. Go back to slavery. Now, when Judge Bohannon ruled that the schools must be integrated, he was a younger judge. But Judge Bohannon is 90 years old. No wonder he didn't want to hear the oral arguments of the court. He's 90 years old. And the headlines should read, a 90-year-old judge sent us back to a segregated society. 90 years old and sent us back. Well, maybe someday we will amend the United States Constitution where judges will only serve 25 years until they are 65 or 70. But he's 90 years old. And Dr. Stella say, I am pleased. Sure, he's pleased because he came to this school system, I believe, to segregate it. And he has done a job not by himself, but with the geniuses of black people. PTA presidents talking about we have a rich tradition. What does a rich tradition really have to do with whether your child is in a school where the doors are rotten, where the principal is rude? What does it have to do with it? Somebody tell me. You may call me and express your opinion. 672-1220. The Mitchell Bundin Company says that they are ready to help you with your problems. You may call 427-8199. The Mitchell Bundin Company, 427-8199. Temple Funeral Home and Roth Funeral Home extend holiday greetings to all of you out in Radio Land. Temple Funeral Home, Roth Funeral Home sends greetings. How How many teachers have ever gone into black restaurants on the east side of Oklahoma City to even eat a meal? Well, one thing about it, if you want a good meal, you can go to Stale's Restaurant in the 1100 block on Northeast 23rd Street and get the kind of restaurant. You will be in the kind of restaurant that will give you the best in food. In 1991, you need to be thinking about a home. And when you think about a home, I want you to think about Carbon Realty Company. Carbon Realty Company. The telephone number is 427-8311. If you're thinking about sending flowers, think in terms of the Exotic Florist Company located here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The address is 3671 North Everett Street, 427-7659. That's the Exotic Florist and Plants Company located at 3671 North Everett Street here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Well, this is the Clara Luper radio show, and this show is dedicated to Dr. Dial, who stood up. And at this time, we got to have an opinion. We want to hear from Mrs. Hunter, Reverend Finney. Reverend Finney.
Mrs. Luper?
Yes.
I haven't always agreed with you in the past, but this morning I'm calling to say thumbs up to what you're saying. And I believe, it's time for some of these old, decrepit, senile judges that are sitting on these courts to step down and let somebody else come in. And this thing about the neighborhood schools, it seems like a good idea. And in fact, it could be beneficial. But as you're saying this morning, the system, and I refrain from, saying the white man or whoever's in charge, but we have to face the issue as it is. They are in charge. They will not put the money in these schools to bring these schools up to a level where these schools can be sufficiently supplied with the resources to give our children the kind of education that they need to go out and compete in this system that we have today.
Well, you keep talking, because I'm certainly agreeing with you, and that's news.
Well, when busing first came out, and I'm not, exactly sure on the year, I was against cross busing, because I felt like, if the money was put in our schools, then our teachers would have the kinds of materials and things that would benefit our children. But history has always shown that whenever we have neighborhood schools, regardless of how good the idea seems, that the people in charge, the administrators, never delegated monies enough to provide for the kind of education that we needed. It always went to the other schools, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, Reverend, and you are exactly right, and thank you so very kindly for calling and expressing your opinion.
All right, now I support you wholeheartedly on this issue, and even though I disagree with you on other things, I think this thing we all need to become more aware and educated about, because, see, this is the future of our community, our young people, and even our city as we know it today.
Well, thank you so very kindly. Oh, yes, we are in trouble, and certainly our news medias are not helping us, because all we are seeing are black gangs. Show us some black gangs that are doing something positive. Show us what's happening at the YWCA, the YMCA, the various churches, because it's more to this community than somebody standing around talking about, I want
to go, and it was prompted by black people, not white.
But black people.
By black people, I said it, A.L. Down, and I looked them in the face, because I was sitting in the courtroom when the preacher was talking about how good it was to let us the black children over here and the white children over there. How can that man be a Christian and sending them to an educational doom? Sending them out not prepared. And too many of our black people are sitting on their hips now, doing nothing, and letting the community go down the river and talking about neighborhood school. It'd be better if they didn't go.
But maybe we need neighborhood churches.
Well, it would be better. Maybe they would be more sincere. But we're in a sad state, and nobody's doing anything. Nobody's giving constructive ideas. Nobody's telling,
They don't need no any ideas. All they got to do is you walk in a school, you pass the test, and have a bunch of nervous teachers who realize that if kids don't pass the test next year, they are going to be in
well, I'll
trouble.
tell you what's happening, Mr. Luper, and it's all over the country. You have too many Clarence Thomases, and they are getting for themselves and doing what the white power structure tell them to do.
Well, I sure would like to invite the administration to be here with me next week, because next week we will have a report. I ask the preachers to join us in this tour, and let's look for non-segregated schools.
Well, I'll tell you what you're going to find before it happens. You're going to have many. I don't say all. We have a few good town, but then not
Okay,
only the
Dr.
educators.
Okay.
They do not do for the black what is Christianly wise to do.
Well, anyway, one thing about it, the whites didn't beat us, but those educated Toms did it for us.
Well, let me finalize my statement.
Okay, well, finalize. I'm going to give you a minute.
All right. The education, people said education is going to do it. That's what's required. That isn't. Education will not do it, because our biggest blow, our biggest setback was done by educated blacks. That's what set us back. But the thing that's going to put us on solid rock is divine guidance. If we do what our Lord and Savior asks us to do, then we will be fair and just, and we will get those things we need, we should have, we are deserving of.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dial. And this program is being made possible by Eugene's Hair Connection, hairstylist Eugene, where they give permanents, relaxers, curls, clipper cuts, hair cutting, and finger waving. Now, don't get excited. They will also give braids. I want you to go to Eugene's Hair Connection, located at 1907 North Clason in Oklahoma City. You will be greeted by Brenda, Samuel, O'Brien, and Eugene, and you can get it at a price that you can afford. Let M&W Weldon protect your family, home, and business. M&W Weldon can protect your hard-earned valuables from intruders. Now, remember, when you go to M&W, located on Northeast 23rd Street, or call 424-1482. Tell them you heard it on the Clara Luper radio show. Today's program is a very special program because you are special. You are special. And you are always special at Johnson Dina's Daycare Center, owned by Mr. and Mrs. Paul Matthews, fondly known as Gloria Matthews. A place where you can get the kind of treatment, the kind of care that you so rightfully deserve. That's Johnsonshire Care. Chancellor's. Oh, can I say it? Calvin, you might have to help me out.
Mom, you know what you're trying to say, and I think everybody out there that knows and cares about their kids, even before they get into kindergarten, know that you're talking about Chauncey Charadina's preschool, located there on Northeast 50th Street in the 1700
Now,
block.
there's another one also located at Martin Luther King, on Martin Luther King.
In
Tell
the
us about it.
2600 block. Now, Gloria Matthews, Mrs. Matthews and her staff, those of you who were listening last week, you heard a lot from Mrs. Matthews, and you know that she's concerned about the community, but she takes even better care of those young people there. You know, if we had some teachers like Mrs. Matthews, no telling, we wouldn't have to worry about our school system. But
Okay, let me give them the address. Johnson Dina's Daycare Center is located at 1643 Northeast 50th Street. The telephone is 424-4656, and at 2611 Martin Luther King, 427-5274. Let's get the show on the road, and we can get the show on the road because when we start thinking, now I don't mind them discriminating against me, but I don't want you to discriminate against me and make me like it. Now you can't do that. I didn't like that Supreme Court decision in 1857 when they told Dred Scott he was not a person. I didn't like it in 1866 when they said blacks could not eat in any public places or go to hotels. And I sure didn't like Bohannon's decision, nor did I like the reaction from black people. And the black PTA people that haven't fought for, I have never seen them fighting for equal rights. More black people are being fired and pressured off of jobs than ever in the history of this city. I haven't heard them open their mouths. And don't you tell me that a neighborhood school is better than any other school. I want you to come and go with me, and let's get the time, 10 o'clock. And if I can help somebody, then my living here is not in vain. Dr. Dowell, I've done the best as I could this morning. I've tried to awaken Oklahoma City to where we have to go, and we've got to go. I don't want my people to become discouraged because we have known mountains. Any time a people can survive 246 years of slavery, we can survive a few more years. We can survive. Now, Judge Bohannon is 90 years old, and that says something within itself. But I told you.
Mom, you know, some graduates of the Douglas High School 1960 are having a big dinner today at 11.
Where?
11 o'clock, 3
Where?
p.m. at the Redeemed Episcopal Church on North Martin Luther King Avenue. We invite everybody to go by there.
Oh, of course. In the meantime, don't forget the Circle C, where you can get that good old barbecue and that good old ice cream. Bell ball. Oh, don't forget it. This is Clara Luper saying, Dr. Stella, Dr. Mason, and you other doctors, you're cordially invited to travel with me on a great tour Monday at 10 a.m. when we meet looking for the non-segregated schools on the northeast side of Oklahoma City. And as we leave, our heart is with Magic Johnson, who has certainly made a great contribution to all of us. This is Clara Luper saying, come on through with your donation. Help us build this monument. Help us. We deserve your support. I love you, Dr. Dow. I love you. Bye-bye.